on in as they want to. I'm joined, my name is Carrie Voss, and I'm the curator of exhibits, and I'm joined here with three folks today. Bob Baldridge here on the end is a student at the Applied Design program at UALR. Daniel Casey of Casey Arms is a mid-career smith and owner of his business. And Ricardo Vilar is an accomplished knife maker and lead instructor at the James Black School of Bladesmithing and Historical Trades at UA Hope, Texarkana. So this program is called The Future of the Forge, and I'm really happy to be with the three of you because you all have very diverse practices and diverse relationships with the forge. And the purpose of this conversation really is to just open a discussion about how to preserve historical knowledge while adapting to the future and creating opportunities for all kinds of people to participate in smithing, knife making, and any of the arts of the forge. So thank you guys. So I'm going to scoot a little bit, but
technique is not the only one for knife making. So if you only forge and make your blades through the forge, so then you are bladesmith. But if you can open your horizons and do other kind of stuff,
so I consider myself a bladesmith, not a knife maker, no offense at all. But to me, I love the traditional aspect, the history of it, and being able to shape something with the hammer to near completion is an art form in itself, I believe. But just as you said, I believe that there are so many modern things that you can bring into it to make it easier for people who want to learn,
yes,
and much more relatable for people who want to learn, especially younger generations. And I'm a hardcore cold forge user. I believe in cold forge all the way, but a lot of people, if you live in town or a subdivision, can't have a cold forge. So you have to embrace the new and modern things like
I've done that a little bit, but a particular goal in mind, like a knife, for example. So I just really enjoy the the historical qualities of it and the malleability of steel and how plastic it is, and the the fundamentals of learning how to control that and move it in the direction that you want is a really enjoyable process for me. And so I do look for ways to incorporate that into my work, if I have an opportunity to. But of course, like you both say, it's not the only technique you'll ever use. There's a lot of other things that you can incorporate in with it.
And do you practice other arts and crafts as part of your practice? What are those other things besides metalworking?
Right now in school, I've been mainly learning jewelry-based techniques, small metals. I've been doing like brooches and tea infusers, working with copper and silver and things like that. So I'm starting to sort of figure out ways to blend, the traditional forging techniques and using steel, and then applying some of the more finer, detail-oriented practices from the jewelry world into making things that are a little more refined, but still historically sort of referential, in that way.
And I know both of you practice other arts, as part of knife making, and certainly, Daniel also creates long rifles and that sort of thing. What are some of the other practices that you have to master in order to do those things?
Yeah, so that is one of my favorite things about what I do, is that there's not just one medium that I work in. You have to be able to work in steel and iron and brass and copper and silver and meld all those materials together. And wood, absolutely, to shape the handles. So that's the beauty of it to me, is it doesn't get boring because you have to mix 8 things to create one thing beautiful.
Yeah.
Knife making or bladesmithing, so you need to be able to deal with leather, with wood, and understand a little bit about your Damascus and what kind of percentage of carbon or kind of percentage of this steel have that can be combined with this steel, and they're going to forge together and they're going to weld together. So
And give you a good pattern.
and do that good pattern. So we need to understand a little bit about that, and also understand a little bit how to design a plate.
Yeah.
So
To the equipment, the facilities, and the materials, and it's not very easy to set that stuff up for yourself at home for everyone. So it's still like the access to the equipment is probably the biggest challenge for most people to even get started. It's a lot of investment to try it for the first time, so to speak.
And absolutely, and that's what most people do, I've seen, is try it for the first time after they've made that investment. And then you better hope that you really want to do it if you've made that investment, But I agree with him 100% that the big challenge will be equipment and materials for most people. But I also believe that if you want to do it bad enough, you'll find a way. My first handle was a section of railroad rail, And so if you want to bad enough, you can find a rock to hammer on, But I think people building beautiful things, enjoying it, and the creation of it, and sharing that with others is what will light a fire to keep it going.
I would just add maybe go take a class before you
Yes.
buy anything. Go
Yes.
take a class.
I used to say that class, it's not just, people think, oh, what am I going to learn? So it depends on the instructor, but 99% of the instructors that I know, they really have the skills to teach you something. But it's a kind of time machine. So the instructor will take you here from time 0, and you're gonna, after 1 week, you have received at least 20 years of his knowledge, and then you can keep going from there. So going to the class is gonna save you money. People say, oh, it's too expensive, I'm gonna spend a lot of money on a class. No, you're gonna save a lot of money, because how many people did you know as they already bought something that you don't need that, you're never gonna use that, and it's too expensive. So just go to a class and people are gonna tell you, so this is okay, this is not okay, you don't really need a fancy grinder or something to make something. You can do that with a vise, a film hand files, and then it can be done, because this is the way I started. The first time I made, the first time I made long ago, it was just files and a vise, and probably at most one angle grinder, which you can buy really cheap. So the idea is to put people working with your hands. So it doesn't matter if they're going to forge or not, because forging, it will be a natural. They're going to escalate to that. So I want to do that. I want to take that, what you said, it's the plastic you steal. So I'm going to take a rod, a 1-inch rod, and transform that in something, in a rose, or in a knife, with a rose in a butt cap or something. So, and then you need a forge to do that, because you cannot just grind it. So the forge will be the future in a way.
Yeah.
And I'd love to reiterate YouTube, like how priceless YouTube is. When I started out, I went to the library and got every book I could on it and read it cover to cover multiple times. And there was so much I still wanted to know. Now, if you can dream it up and type it into YouTube, there's 6 people that will show you the way they do it. So if you want to learn, YouTube is your most priceless.
At the same time, it's the problem of 6 people will tell you how to do it. But who are those 6 people, and how do you discern who to learn from, whose time is worth?
Yeah, you need to have the knowledge to judge what is okay, what you can absorb, what you're going to throw away. Because, for example, not long ago, you probably have seen that one guy just made a joke, and he made a Damascus on a can. He put a pepper on it, and you cannot imagine how many emails I receive. Oh, why is the pepper? Is that a secret? Is that a no? He just made a joke with y'all. No, what he's doing is receiving views.
And paid off very well for him.
So that is something that you need. And the other point is, I had students that I have followed YouTube and I know how to make knives, I know that. And the first time they hammer, oh, it's too heavy. It's not the same as in my coach when I was watching YouTube. No, it's not. It's hard. It's gonna burn. And the dirt and the abrasive is gonna kick your fingernails. So that is just, okay, this is not for me. I'd love to see it, but I don't want to make it. So It is nice, but you need to have a balance.
And so many of us, I know I'm guilty of this, you know, we love to buy aspirationally, you know, like I want to spend more time outside. And so what should I do? I should definitely get some new outdoor gear. I should buy a new tent. You know, I should get a new water bottle. And there's a, you know, that's the easy part. The hard part is doing the actual
Spending the time.
work.
Yeah.
And you know, to that, I think I would love for you two to talk just a little bit about. You both had relatively challenging circumstances in terms of you knew from a relatively young age that you were interested in making knives, but like neither of you grew up in a time where you could YouTube or you know like where you had access to guys, you're so old. You know, you didn't have a community of makers around you who were ready to, you know, tell you how to do everything. So, I mean, do you mind, maybe Ricardo?
I don't think we have time for that.
Just like kind of briefly talking about, like, you know, okay, if you're in it, you know, like.
30 years and 2 minutes.
No, you know, at the beginning.
Yeah, what
he
he said was he started with basically nothing. So he used as an example a piece of railroad. So basically, I started the same. But 30 years ago, I've been a little before that because I consider 30 years since I went to the first knife show. So I started before that. And the reason I started before is just because I love knives. I don't have no idea. For me, knives are the most important tool for the human beings.
Yeah.
Okay, the most important tool for it doesn't matter if you're a vegan, if you like meat, if you don't like meat, if you're a vegetarian or whatever. You need knife to feed yourself, to feed. So whenever you congregate, whenever you have your family together and you're gonna eat together, y'all have knife. So the clothes we are using, the haircut, so the scissor is nothing else than two knives working together. So knives is the most important tool. And then I love for that. And then it says, okay, in Brazil, where I came from, it is allowed to carry a knife being a Boy Scout. So the reason I became a Boy Scout was to carry a knife. And I says, okay, I can carry a knife. I'm going to be a Boy Scout because I'm going to have my knife. And then I started to make my own knives. But this is important because many years a Smith, I mean, many years in Brazil, many years ago, no Smiths. No
Smiths.
Blacksmiths.
Gotcha.
So nobody forging.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had no resources. What am I going to find? What am I going to do that? I says, oh, my father has a friend that knows somebody that his cousin do that. I said, oh, okay, going to be a little different. But then I started to search and to how I'm going to do this. And then I started to find other people with the same age or trying to forge some knives. And then we started to search. In 2001, Jerry Feast went to Brazil, and then we started.
At your urging, right?
Yeah. And then he started to. We started to forge with some other makers, and now we have that. That's why I'm so optimistic of the future.
Yeah.
Because the forge was almost dying in the South. I mean,
almost everywhere.
Yeah, it's almost dying, and now it's so popular. So everybody's forging. So the TV shows and other things that is just having forging, and people are coming to forge. And even though they're doing right or wrong, I don't care. So we can fix that later. But just come and that. So that's the way I started, and it was really, really beautiful. And now, being honored to be one of the instructors there, the idea is to create and make it much easier for whoever want to come and whoever want to make some knives, and they're going to choose what kind of technique. If they're going to forge some things that looks like a knife, like you said, or just use a hardcore cold forge. But they're going to choose that, and they can do that right now.
Yeah.
But some time ago, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Like, I think it's in the write-up on the knife. And then my first forge was a a brake drum from a Chevette. My little brother was my blower. And then I had a piece of railroad rail for my anvil. You know, I really wanted to do it, so I found a way to get a piece of metal hot enough to hammer on. And then this fine gentleman on the end right here worked with my dad at Dassault Falcon Jet here in Little Rock. And he lent us some VHS videos of a gentleman in Kentucky named Herschel House. I wrote to the address on the back of the
Which
slip.
I love. You were like,
Yeah.
what, like 15 or something like that?
Exactly. And that wonder of wonders he replied, you know, and I got to go learn from him. So not everybody gets that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I struggled for 5 years before I got to go learn from him.
Yeah.
And just like you said, in a week you can learn 20 years worth of knowledge that you could read a book for 20 years and not get it out of. So
That
finding a
first thing.
mentor
Yeah.
is really, really big. And that not only gives you someone to show you the fine points, but it also gives you somewhere to work, you know, to start out and to decide, is this right for me? Do I want to make this investment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was a really beautiful way to say it, that, you know, that working with a master smith is like, you know, or a master maker of any kind, is like a time machine.
Yeah.
I thought that was a wonderful way of saying it. Well, thanks for sharing about that, both of you. And, you know, we've gone through some of the hurdles to learning about these arts, but you know, what are some of the opportunities as you do? I mean, I think, is it fair to say that you all three feel optimistic about, you know, the future of heritage trades and historical craft? And if so, like, what, you know, what makes you feel optimistic about it?
Go ahead.
I feel pretty optimistic. I think that, you know, one of the things that you can't really argue with is that there's more people sitting at home watching craftsmen and artists and makers make things just purely for the fun of watching them do it. You know, and so there's a really widespread general interest in these things and, you know, the preservation of them. And I think that through that, only more people will want to participate in it and to actually do it. So I think that we're kind of in this weirdness where the demand is sort of like more than the supply for that sort of thing right now. There's more people interested in doing it than have the means to actually go about it, you know. So I think that eventually that will catch up. You know, like there's more people now that are learning, and eventually they will become teachers, and like it'll sort of like feed itself as it goes along. But you know, we're just kind of stuck in that. Like it just now got popular again, so we have to play catch up since it was sort of dying for so long.
And I mean, you're in a really interesting program at UALR, the Applied Design program.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say just a little bit about like what is the point of having these different, like what all do you all have? Wood and
We have
ceramics.
We have pretty
metals.
much everything. We have wood, we have printmaking, we have ceramics, we have sculpture, we have a foundry, we have you know, jewelry, and we have like a jewelry studio and then a separate fabrication studio, which also has a blacksmithing set up in there as well. So I mean, they're pretty much equipped to do just about everything to some degree. You know. They don't have glass. That's the one thing they don't really have is glass. But
What does it mean, applied design? How is that different from, say, your typical fine arts department?
so I think the applied design is where they sort of what they call things that are 3D, you know, arts, and so that would be like excluding the painting and, you know, drawing classes. So like applied design would be, you know, all of the 3D classes we just described. I think if you were going to major in those, you would be getting an applied design major.
And maybe
So studio art.
the idea also that, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems like the idea also that beyond the traditional idea of the artist and the atelier and the studio, that there are all of these wonderful mediums
Yes,
that
like
are...
that it is a good way to expose yourself
Yeah,
to like all
and-
the things out there.
And that, you know,
Different
that
mediums.
we're, you know, that creativity and being an artist really is not just the province of the painter and the sculptor, perhaps, you know, that the jeweler, the woodworker, you know, the metal worker, that, you know, that we're all creatives and artists. I don't know, maybe
It's true. It's interesting to be like sort of in a very close-knit community with all of those people, so it's really easy to see what's going on in all the different studios. So you can sort of see like, okay, what are all the woodworking students doing, or what are all the ceramic students doing, and you're constantly seeing student work in and out of the galleries there, and so you really have a good idea of what your peers are doing, and so it is interesting. I think that that's a different experience than what people in history were probably used to, where you are, say, a blacksmith's apprentice and you only see blacksmithing work. You don't really know how other crafts are done or trades are done necessarily, and so that doesn't influence you as much for, maybe better or worse, but I think it's a good thing personally.
Yeah. If you were only a painter and you thought of yourself only.
Like it's maybe limiting perhaps in some ways,
How about you, Daniel? What do you think are kind of the opportunities? Why do you feel optimistic if you feel optimistic about the future?
No, so for instance, 15, 20 years ago, when I was first starting out, you could find forges and anvils and tongs at yard sales and flea markets around here everywhere. Nowadays, they're gold. You can't find them anywhere. Everybody has bought them because of the TV shows. And I think it comes down to humans were born to create. We are supposed to create. A lot of us have a drive to create. And this is a great avenue for people to do that. They see these shows on TV, they see the work that goes in, the investment, and then the reward at the end that I took this rusty piece of metal and I made something beautiful out of it. I don't think that's ever going away. We're getting shows on TV now, Blown Away, which is a glass blowing competition, and we have these shows where they're butchering meat as a competition and forging competitions. People love to create and to work with their hands and to step back at the end of the day and feel rewarded from that. So in that aspect, it's never going away.
I love that. I love it. And the idea, I think, I told Daniel the other day, and if you all haven't watched Lynn's video and Daniel's video in the Knife Gallery, I hope you do, but at one point in the video, Daniel's talking about, the question of do you take this opportunity at mass production, at turning your custom object into something that can be mass produced, that you can make a lot more money out of,
right.
Really, but it's going to take away from your own creative time. And you said
choose the art every time.
Choose the art every time. And I think that is so beautiful. And
T-shirts coming soon.
yeah, right. I'll be your first customer. I'll be your first customer. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of putting it.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to create, to build with your hands, and especially to share it with others who have a passion for it,
How about you, Ricardo? If you feel optimistic?
I feel 100% optimistic, and the point is, as we just take a look here, everybody has a cell phone in their hands, and everybody has something. The technology is going so high, and all of a sudden the humans say, "Hey, how can I do something with my hands? How can I do something?"
Right.
It's not
scrolling. I can do it a lot with my thumb.
So, but anyway, people want to do something like that, and they want to create something.
Yeah.
And also, there is another point of view. It's the customers want something that is not mass produced.
Yeah.
They want something because, okay, my rock going to be much more beautiful than his rock. So, okay, so I'm going to make mine with a little bit different here, more balance here, more balance there. And whenever people buy something, or I can't say about knives, because this is what I'm doing my entire life. So the customers, they don't buy exactly your knife. They buy a little piece of you.
Yes.
So what you were doing. So in your story, it says what you did and how you create that. How can you create that? And I want to be part of that. And that's why I'm 100% optimistic on that, because as far as the technology is going, so far people need to evolve to escape, to go to somewhere and say, hey, this was made 1 million, this is just that one. There is several knives right there, but this is my knife, and this is the knife I ordered for, and I can incorporate a piece of wood that came from my father's farm, or my brother or something. I can incorporate that piece of steel, and if he forged, he can reuse and repurpose that, and that is the point.
Absolutely.
And then I think that everything is connected. The humans will be always humans. Even though the technology goes so far, they will like things, and the fire will be there.
Yes.
Okay, the fire is 100%. So what is connected with glowing glass or making ceramic or making jewelry, whatever, fire is the key.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful place to end. And I think, as a, Historic Arkansas Museum, our focus here is on collecting and preserving objects that were made by Arkansans, both in the past and the present. And we're so lucky to have, truly so lucky to have the three of you and everyone else out there who is inspired to make things, because it's, as you said, it doesn't matter how much technology we have in our lives, we are connected to, the past through through making things with our hands, and it's, part of our collection, and we're excited to make your works part of our collection too, and it's such a pleasure to work with the three of you and to have you here, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you.